Bunny girl, noun. A woman, typically a hostess or entertainer, who wears a sexually proactive outfit with bunny-like ears and a tail. And funnily enough, a pretty big concept for two amazing series that are within my top 15 favorite pieces of media. Although right now we're singling in on one, and that's Shiba Yuki, because Candlewoods finally dropped, babies.
I'm a villain, 왜 아닐 거라 생각해 아주 못돼 먹은 작은 악마 같은 나인 걸 몰라 You're a villain, 왜 아닐 거라 생각해
I wonder how many first-time viewers I drew away with that intro. Who cares? Anyways, this week's episode of Shiba Yuki kicked off with, unsurprisingly, some people's favorite arc in the series, that being Candlewoods. Now, before I go into the comparison between the anime and the novel as usual, let me set the stage for what Candlewoods actually is. Candlewoods is Yuki's 9th game, as shown through the fact that she has both her original eyes compared to, let's say, Ghost House, where her eyes are different colors. Within the game, there are 330 players, which, interestingly enough, is the highest number of participants that our most experienced player, Hakushi, has ever witnessed. 300 of the players are donned in bunny girl outfits representing the bunnies, with surprisingly most of them being veterans, and the remaining 30 are donned with brown dresses and jumpers, and representing the Stumps, with most of them except one goat being beginners. The way the bunnies win is to survive an entire week, and the way for the Stumps to win is through killing 5 bunnies, along with the Stumps getting weapons that I'll go over when we get there. Now, surprising right off the bat, there's a bit of cut content, which covers a bit of Yuki's out-of-game routines. I'll keep this bit short, but I do wish they kept it in due to it aiding to characterize Yuki, and it would have been a viable reason to cut chunks out of my favorite arc in the series. Yes, as you can't tell, I'm still very salty about how they treated Golden Bath. Anyways, through this tidbit of Yuki's living situation, we learned 4 key factors that definitely label her as a terrible roommate. First would be the outrageous amount of trash bags within her apartment, along with the trash just sitting out. Second, her stacks of cardboard boxes she never figured out how to get rid of. Third, the mold that's growing within her walls, which she has no knowledge of how to fight against. And fourth, being her tracksuit just lying on the floor. Well, I guess it isn't too bad, and it makes a bit of sense, as that's the only piece of clothing except from the other costumes from past games that she owns, due to her tossing everything out because of the aforementioned mold issue. We learned about her day-to-day life through this one late night, or I suppose early morning, as it's currently 2:07 a.m. Whether it be from her checking her dreadful fridge with empty milk cartons and cheese that's possibly been in there so long that it's collecting magical powers, or her typical runs to the convenience store, whether it be to buy ready-made foods or simply ice cream. We learn deeper that even she gets anxious through her refusal to return to the convenience store for more trash bags, as it'd be awkward to face the clerk again, or how her plastic bag would accidentally fall into the river and Yuki would feel guilty even though the situation was out of her control. We also get a call back to Ghost House when Yuki comments on never remembering what day of the week it is and always missing trash day because of it. Though funnily enough, this earlier version of Yuki will remember and rush to her apartment in order to get rid of those 3 bags of trash waiting for her and her no, I'm just kidding. It'd be too much of a hassle. And besides, it was time to accept an invitation to her 9th game, Candlewoods, with a smile on her face. I'm honestly curious if that sounds like filler to you guys, but I honestly really like this portion of the novel. I was actually a bit in awe and a bit disappointed at the same time with the portrayal of Candlewoods within the anime, which is surprising to say, as whether it be for Ghost House or Golden Bath scenery hitting the mark and even pushing past it, and Scrap Building just hitting that mark with a few gripes, Candlewoods looks the least like how it was described within the novels. Candlewoods was meant to be a synthetic forest-like building with artificial leaves and trees, although I'm probably just being too harsh on it, as they did also say the main part of the bunny's hideout was a plaza-like space. Not to mention, even though this doesn't look too much like the supposed woods they're meant to inhabit, the atmosphere is friggin' beautiful. Whether it be the small lake that Hakushi and Yuki have their talk about dreams at, or the general classroom-like area that the Stumps reside in. Between the lighting and the general ambiance, it all looks pretty damn amazing. Moving along, we finally get an official introduction to Hakushi, and man oh man, does she give my gut a run for her money when it comes to looks. Hakushi, as we've discussed before, is Yuki's mentor, and as we learn in this episode, the one that currently houses the dream of reaching 99 games, with her being the most experienced player in the world, sitting at 96, though interestingly enough, she's been on a 3-month hiatus before the events of Candlewoods. From Hakushi, we get basically the same monologue Yuki gave Kotaha in Scrap Building, where there's no extra earnings, prize, rhyme, or reason for it to be 99 games, as she wasn't even sure 99 was the record in the first place. The only reason she chose this was because she genuinely wanted a goal, and how Yuki would soon understand the meaning behind this driving force one day, which at this point in the series, we know she does. Whether it be through her once again talking to Kotoha, where she practically mimics Hakushi's reasoning, or her determination to not fall to Mishra during Golden Bath, or hell, when she's seething at the comments Mr. Kaneka was making about her accolades through playing these games and treating her like a victim. Yuki would figure out why her master pushed so hard to accomplish a goal that seemed so far out of reach, but at this moment in time, she isn't there yet, which is when she actually drops one of my favorite quotes within the series, that would you look at that, the anime cut out for some unknown reason. Good grief, it's like you want me to bash on you sometimes, I swear. Anyways, was right after Hakushi tells Yuki she'll eventually realize the importance of a goal is, however ridiculous a goal it may be, she thought, it's far better to have one than to drift through life like I am. Which actually amplifies the out-of-game content that was cut, because that's exactly what Yuki was doing beforehand, drifting through life, waking up late to avoid as many people as she could, not cleaning her apartment, eating quick meals from the nearby convenience store, participating in games, rinse and repeat. And in my eyes, this quote is her truly addressing this aspect of herself and how she views herself as inferior to others who house a goal no matter how unrealistic. And this also perfectly ties into what I believe the main theme of Candlewoods truly is, the power one's goal gives them. We also get to meet another new character on the bunny team named Sumiyaka. She's honestly a pretty interesting character with an even better design. I'll save the bulk of what we get from her next week because we're still early within the game, so I can't exactly mark it as cut content just yet. Although we do learn that she's considered one of the top 5 active players, and just how spectacular of a player Hakushi is. Hell, even that word might not be capable of doing her justice. The act of winning 95 consecutive games with a 70% survival rate per game is 1 in 5 trillion, which is, after doing the math, or actually looking it up because I suck at math, actually correct, even though it's a bit off with the technical calculation being 1 in 519 trillion. And that's all I think for the bunny team. Let's check up on the Stumps. Oh my. So the Stumps team houses one of my favorite characters within the arc, that being Moegi, and to say the least, the anime did her perfectly. Now, for the jump, Moegi was put in a losing situation, as she was the only veteran among 29 beginners, so obviously she took the mantle up as leader. Now, to kill their 5 bunnies each, the Stumps are given 3 different weapons, the first being guns modeled after Morning Glories. Moegi actually was able to deduce it was repurposed from the last game, and with that information remembered that it only fired 8 times and couldn't be reloaded. The second being a knife meant to resemble a bamboo leaf, with the blade being about 6 inches long. And the third weapons being pine cones, which unlike the others had a pretty hefty weight to them. But I think I'll keep their actual use until later, although I trust in your deduction skills to most likely figure it out by now. Now then, I'm gonna be blunt with you guys. If you thought Moegi's strategy in forcing the beginners to act in the anime was bad, trust me, shit got way worse in the novels. Now obviously you have to kick these beginners out of their comfort zones, and Moegi has little time and even lower amounts of patience. So the best strategy to get these Stumps prepped to take a life was to sacrifice one of them by shooting her in the leg. The girls were each given a single command for this monstrous exercise. Kill this girl yourselves. Each of you will stab her twice, deep enough to reach at least the center of the blade, and if they refuse or are unable to commit, they will be shot and turned into the next example. And though this seems bad from their perspective, Moegi kinda has a point. If these girls are incapable of crossing that line, then her chances against the bunnies will lower substantially, and she can't afford to die here. Now, when I say the novel is worse, it actually has to do with Kabane. She was the first one ordered to stab the girl Moegi shot, and within the anime she adamantly refused and begged to simply drop out of the game. And while it was sort of graphic and dark, Moegi would shoot her in the mouth and that'd be the end of her. Through this demonstration, the other girls would quickly follow her orders and one by one complete their quotas. Now, while the anime Moegi simply saw Kabane as dead weight that needs to be exterminated, novel Moegi saw her as another example before unloading 3 more shots into her torso. She fully admits she'll kill as many Stumps as necessary to fully get her point across, claiming how she preferred to take 25 hastily trained Stumps with her than 30 who are bumbling around and unwilling to adapt. And here's truly how the anime and the novels differ, as when Moegi tells the next girl to step up, in the novels she says the words, "Stab one of them, I don't care which." As of now, there are 2 possible targets for them to meet their quotas with. Moeki would give each girl a 3-second countdown, and before she could even reach 3, the girl would stab Kabane in the thigh as she screamed loudly, and once more to meet her quota about 4 inches above where the initial stab was. The scream was louder than the first. It honestly gets darker as we learn that Kabane was the only one stabbed and that she would soon perish before the girl who was already dead was even stabbed once. This was due to both the girls initially just following the example before them and Moeki's claim that stabbing a corpse didn't amount to killing, causing her to make one more example out of the girls who were still reluctant and forcing them to change their target. In total, it took 3 sacrifices to mold these Stumps into killers. Yeah, not gonna lie, it might have been cool to see this part get animated, but even I can admit, I'm not too surprised it was cut, cause damn that was dark. At the end of the episode, we get a good look at Moeki's inner psyche after all is said and done. She was happy that it only took 3 losses, but she only saw it as that, 3 losses. 3 Stumps needing to die in order to prove a point. She was consumed by guilt, as even though she participated in these games and was a murderer as well, unlike her master, she couldn't react unsympathetically towards the suffering of others. And speaking of her master, I'm not sure how I feel about them face dropping her so early, and an amazing aspect about Candlewoods is that her master was more of an anomaly and we didn't even know she was in this game. But if you just watch the trailer, then showing her face practically spoils bits of the twist, though I have slight faith the anime will bring it back in. All we know right now is that, she's completely and utterly deranged / insane. Someone who never had a single hesitation and never cared for appearances, and Moeki would vow to overcome death no matter how many times it took to reach that pinnacle. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode of Original vs. Adaptation. Genuinely thank you guys for all the support you're giving to this series. I was actually surprised to learn how many of you were waiting for last week's episode analysis, and it felt nice to know how many of you I could help further understand this amazing series. I'll actually give this episode the first tied score for an adaptation and anime only, that being a 6.5. This due to it being another setup episode in the long run, along with sadly its god-awful pacing. For the episode that's responsible for disrupting Golden Bath's pacing and conclusion, it was so slow. I'm aware of their approach to ambiance and mystery, but there were so many stagnant parts between the dialogues that I feel were simply unnecessary. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments, any questions you may still have, and I'll see you next Saturday.